So again, welcome everyone. My name is Lisa Pellrine and I'm the Director of Enrollment Management at Chapel Hill Chauncey Hall School. And thank you to everyone who's been joining us for our live webinars. Unfortunately, we couldn't have our Revisit Day on campus, but we've really had some fabulous segments on different topics about our community and student life. So far, we've covered academics at CHCH. We had an amazing student panel. We had our skills and academic support teacher and some students join us this past Wednesday, and today we have a parent panel. So just a reminder that we are going to be recording these webinars and we'll be posting them on our Revisit Day page. And so if son or daughter or husband, wife could not join us this afternoon, we'll be posting the recorded session up there. All right, so we are going to be getting started. And I'm just going to briefly share my screen with everyone so I can review the schedule for this afternoon. Right. So after the overview, we're going to start with a short parent video, and then we're going to go into introductions. So we have a really great group of parents joining us, and they'll tell us a little bit more about their son or daughter who attends Chapel Hill and where they came from and what interests and activities that they're involved in. And then we're going to open it up to a Q&A. So this is an opportunity for you to ask our panelists just different questions from a parent perspective. And they're here to just talk about their experiences with you. And so I'm going to turn it over to Matt to start the video, and then we'll get into introductions following that. Okay, well, thanks everyone for joining.
The teachers who really go out of their way to help every student, even if, they're not teaching that student directly in class or whatever, really, make the difference in school.
I think for the first time in a long time, Sonia found somebody that she could absolutely take at their word. And even when the message was difficult, you're behind on this paper or you need to work on that, it was never mean, it was never hurtful. It was always done in a way that helped Sonia to get through that situation and move forward, because I think she absolutely believed at every moment that Jackie was telling her the truth and that she wanted the best for her, and she was saying those things to her so that she would go forward and improve.
My sophomore year, I got paired with Miss McDonald for her to be my advisor, and I was like in a new world, not a freshman anymore, whatever. And she really validated my feelings about how I felt, and she understood where I was coming from academically, socially, in every way possible.
Before Sonia came here, she hated school. Right? It was not a place of success for her. It was not a place where she felt supported.
I think she's a very honest person. She's a very welcoming person. She is at every one of my volleyball games, every one of my lacrosse games when softball doesn't have an interfering game or whatever. So she's so involved in the community, and she genuinely cares about every aspect of Chapel Hill.
And so coming here was a giant step, and whether she was going to be able to make that change, we didn't know. And now it's sort of shocking to look back and say, oh my God, this is the best thing that could have happened. And it's because of Jackie and people like her that make this a safe place to make mistakes.
Miss McDonald, you've helped me in so many ways. You don't even know how much of an impact you've made on my life, and it means so much that you have taken time out of the last 2 years to help me, so thank you.
Just have to unmute. All right, thank you. So that was just a powerful message from one of our current parents and students. So many great stories, but it's not always an easy journey for some of our students, and some just excel from the beginning. So I think this afternoon we really want to just talk about all of the wonderful experiences and journeys that some of our students have had. So I'm just going to start off with some introductions before we get into the Q&A. So I'm going to turn it over to Kim to begin and introduce herself, and then we'll go down the list.
Okay, thanks, Lisa. My name is Kim Shaka. I'm a little unique in the panel in that both of my daughters attended Chapel Hill. They've both graduated. My older daughter, Alexa, graduated in 2016 and is now a senior in college. And my younger daughter graduated last spring, 2019. We live in Chestnut Hill. My younger daughter was in the Brookline Public Schools before coming to Chapel Hill. and my older daughter many years ago now. We actually were living in Puerto Rico, and we moved here, and she entered Chapel Hill at that time. Both of my girls were very, very involved with the drama program. Theater was a big deal for our family, and an amazing experience at Chapel Hill. So I'm happy to answer any questions about that. Also, just having been around for a really long time now, I'm also on the board. So I'm, even though my kids are no longer part of the school, I am still very involved and have a lot of insight from a lot of different perspectives. So happy to help in any way.
Great. Thank you, Kim.
Yep.
All right. Up next is Michelle.
Sorry, I just had to unmute myself there. Hi, my name is Michelle Codrington. My son Aaron is a junior currently at CHCH. We entered in 10th grade. We're from Westwood, Massachusetts, and before CHCH, he went to Westwood High School. He's very involved in the makerspace and cross country and ultimate frisbee, and he's had a really wonderful experience there thus far. I'm also on the PGA and development committee, so I'm around quite a bit. So from the angle that you'd.
Okay. Thanks, Michelle. You froze up a little bit. So, we understand we're using Zoom, and I think mostly everyone in the world is using Zoom right now. So there's been some little technical glitches and difficulties, which is going to happen. But it is what it is, and we're just going to kind of just roll with it. So thank you, Michelle. All right. Next up is Susan.
Hi, everyone. My name is Susan Canestraro. I have a daughter, Mia, who is started at Chapel Hill in 9th grade, and she's in 10th grade now. She came from the Carroll School, and she's active in the sports at CHCH. She's done soccer, basketball, and lacrosse, so can talk a little bit about that. She transitioned really beautifully to Chapel Hill, so just it's been great. So and that's why I'm sitting on the panel today. It's been very great for her.
Great. Thanks, Susan. Next up is Amy. Oh, Amy, you just have to unmute.
Thank you.
There you go.
I'm Amy Maniscalco. I have a freshman, Layla. We are from Framingham. Prior to coming to Chapel Hill, Layla was in Framingham Public Schools. She's been pretty active with sports, volleyball and basketball. She also plays club volleyball outside of school. I also have a 2019 graduate who is at LaSalle College this year as a freshman.
Great. Thank you, Amy. All right. And up next is Francesca.
Thanks, Lisa. Hi, everyone. My name's Francesca, and my daughter Sophia is a junior at Chapel Hill Chauncey Hall. She started off as a freshman. We live in Winchester, Massachusetts, and she attended Winchester Public Schools all the way up until 9th grade. And then we put her in Chapel Hill Chauncey Hall, repeating her 9th grade. So she did 9th grade in public school and then again at CHCH. And she is involved in a little bit of everything. She does cross country in the fall, theater in the winter, and then in the spring, she's always picked a different sport. She did ultimate frisbee freshman year and rock climbing her sophomore year. So that's kind of been fun for her to try different things.
Great. Thank you, Francesca. All right. Up next, we have Carrie and David Traub.
Hi, everyone. I'm Carrie, and my husband David is sitting in a different little window there.
You're on the same computer.
Actually, you know what? I'll take off my. Here, you can talk over here too. Our daughter is Bridget, and she is a freshman. She started this year, and she came from Medfield Public Schools. It's been a great experience for her so far. She's been doing the theater And what else? She's really loving her clubs, which include GSA and the admissions charter group, and another volunteer club, I believe. So it's been great so far for us.
Great, thank you. And Jenny?
Hi. My son is Axel Hardy. He's a freshman, and he went to the Atrium School for elementary school. We live in Sudbury, and we've been so pleased with Chapel Hill Chauncey Hall. It's been such a good experience with us, and we've we took a really long time, like I'm sure everybody, to look for a school for him. And I have two girls who go to different private schools, and I teach at another private school. And I felt like I was really familiar with the schools in the area, and we were just so impressed with the unique capabilities that CHCH had for Axel. He's dyslexic, yet he's a great reader, and he needed a little bit of support, but also the challenges of a normal prep school program, and it's really been perfect for that. He's been involved in student government. He did the technical part of plays, building the sets and things, and he did wrestling, and those were all completely new experiences for him, and so great. Really, really good.
Great. Good. Well, thank you. All right. So I'm just going to ask families now that you're more than welcome to start asking any questions through the chat. I just put a little note up there. So for those of you not familiar with the chat, it should have popped up for you. But the first question, is just kind of in general how, I know for a lot of students, sometimes socially it's a challenge to change schools and not wanting to leave their friends from public school, for example. So could a parent speak to that? Someone who came from public school and how that transition was?
I mean, I'm happy to start that. So Sophia, my daughter, did not want to leave public school at all. She loved where she was. She was very happy. We as parents were not happy, and told her we were going to make this change, and she was devastated and told us we were the worst parents ever and we were ruining her life and how dare we. But we pushed forward because we found Chapel Hill Chauncey Hall and just knew it was the right fit for her. And the transition was seamless. She stepped right in. She kicked and screamed all summer, let's get that straight. But when school started, she loved it. She, from the first day on, picked her up every day. She had the biggest smile on her face. And she's been very happy there ever since. So it was a very good transition. In fact, when we drive by the Winchester High School now, she just looks at it and says, "Oh my goodness, I can't believe how huge that place is. I can't believe I used to go there." She just can never even imagine being back in that environment.
Great, thank you. Anyone else want to add to that, coming from public school?
I will. So we have a completely different circumstance. Our older daughter, Emma, definitely needed Chapel Hill Chauncey Hall, and from the minute she got there until the minute she graduated, there were some major accomplishments that were just above and beyond what we ever could have wished or hoped for her. And so with a younger sister coming up who was a straight A student with a huge group of friends, we gave her the option of the high school in Framingham or Chapel Hill. We gave her the option of smaller classrooms and real relationships with teachers and real relationships with friends that were so different than the kids she had grown up with. And so she tortured herself all summer, making her own decision. And I think she is beyond grateful for the choice that she made. She maintains her relationships with her friends here, but she's had opportunities that she said she never would have had she continued through the public school.
Great, thank you. Great.
Can I just add to that one more thing? My son also came from a public school. One of the things that we loved is that they had these days during the summer where the new recruits would come in and the parents, and it allowed him to get to know some of the kids and us to get to know some of the parents prior to starting, and that was really great. Gave him quite a comfort level when he came in. And he still has some of those friends today. So they also made it very easy to get to know people prior to the time.
Great, thank you. All right, anyone else want to add anything? No? Okay. Another question, you know, a parent remembered our progress notes that every week teachers are posting weekly updates to their students, and parents have access to those. So what do you feel like, you know, the communication? Do you feel like there's great communication amongst the classroom teachers and the parents? Can someone speak to that and the benefit of that versus maybe where you were before, not having that feedback or communication? Yep, Carrie. Yep.
Yeah, it's been awesome. The progress notes are really fantastic to not only understand what is happening in the classroom, so in terms of curriculum and projects, you know, the content that they're learning, just to kind of have an idea, but also it's really specific feedback. And the feedback is continuous, which is terrific. And it's also really nice that the kids get to see it and kind of talk to their teachers and work through it in SAS on, you know, the day before, like the parents get it. So like we don't, so they are empowered to, you know, kind of work through their own, you know, things that they need to work on, strengths, their challenges, whatever. The other thing that I think has been really helpful is that the teachers are really accessible. So anytime, you know, you want to email someone or have a phone call or go to one of the, you know, parent teacher conferences, like everybody's really available to talk through whatever it is, whether it's just like a, you know, teeny tiny little thing that you need support with, or you know, kind of just to give them a heads up that something's going on. Everybody's been really receptive, so it's really like you can just reach out whenever you need to, but it's also really nice that the kids are empowered to do it themselves. And so one of the great things I think for us too has been able to step back this year and let her own her own experience.
Great, thank you. And maybe if Susan or Jenny, if you want to speak to coming even from, you know, private school prior, and kind of, you know, it is a smaller school where you do have more communication and connection, but if you want to maybe speak to that aspect of it. And
yeah, it actually, so Axel didn't have exactly, we hear the situation like where a student didn't have the best experiences and found their way to CHCH and had a much better time. Luckily for us, that wasn't really the case. He had an excellent experience in his elementary school, but I really can't say enough about the communication at CHCH. It really is different and way more intense and way more work for the teachers. There's a lot that goes into that, but it's so appreciated because similarly, we could step back. It allowed Axel to, in the beginning of the year, be in the same mindset that he was in before, but he learned from so many things, and he learned from the constant communication between the three of us, the teachers, the parents, and Axel. He learned how to be independent that way, and really we have stepped back so much this in the past weeks before school closed. It was remarkable how effective that communication has been for us.
Great. And Susan, anything you want to add?
Sure. When Mia first started in 9th grade and those weekly progress reports were coming out, I was so excited to see them and was so waiting. Every Thursday, I'm like right at my computer waiting for them to come through. Just because I was anxious too with it being a new school, the transition, and just was really wondering how she was doing academically. I didn't necessarily, it wasn't so much what they were doing, it was how was she doing. And it was just really good to be able to get that feedback right from the start, and not wait until, you know, halfway through the semester or whatever to find out, you know, this isn't going well or whatever. You really have a pulse and a tab on what's happening specifically with your student. And as far as like transitioning, leaving, I know she came from a private school, but she was ready to leave the Carroll School, and really was just ready to move on. And so that worked out really well. It was good that she was ready.
Mm-hmm. Great, good. The next question is for Kim. Just having Alexa as a senior in college now and kind of gone through that process, how has the transition been, specifically moving from a small classroom setting to larger groups? Has it been challenging? Just wondering how prepared she has felt.
Yes, I think both my daughters were so successful in the small class setting sizes. We definitely had anxiety about going off to college. And although they went to a bigger school, of course, they didn't go to huge universities. They still were looking for a relatively reasonable sized classroom. So it wasn't like they were in lecture halls with 300. I'm not so sure they would do well. But Alexa specifically is at Lesley University, and the class sizes there are not exactly the same as Chapel Hill, but they're a little bit, they're bigger, but they're not overwhelming. And I think, time and time again over the years, Alexa will refer to things that she learned at Chapel Hill from a specific teacher that has helped her in her college career, her whole success of college, from being able to do a public, a speech to the class. She knows, she's done it so many times in Chapel Hill. She had the confidence to be able to be in college, and although nervous, was able to pull those skills. She still to this day communicates with at least 3, if not 4 of her teachers that she had at Chapel Hill, and they're always checking in on her. And if she, over time had an issue with a particular, like her English teacher, for example, if she had an issue in college, she would reach out to him. So I think she was very comfortable to advocate and to know what she had confidence in and what she might not. And that was very different from the child that started at Chapel Hill. And at the end of looking back of the 4 years now, she would not, we weren't even sure she was going to go to college at one point. And now, she's, getting all A's and B's, and truly has just been so successful in having that foundation, and the continued support of her relationships with the teachers at Chapel Hill has definitely been amazing to watch.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Amy, do you want to speak to that a little bit? I know Emma's only been in college her first year, but
yeah, I just want to add to that I think at the end of their journey at Chapel Hill, regardless of if they move on to a smaller school, which is what Emma chose at LaSalle, or a big school, they are so aware of how they learn and what they need and how to go and find it and how to advocate for themselves, whether it's to go back to teachers at Chapel Hill, which Emma absolutely does, or to find those resources at the school that they choose. She transitioned seamlessly, both socially and academically, as well as making their D3 volleyball team. So if you asked me in 8th grade if this girl would graduate from high school, I would have probably to you said no. To her, I would have said yes. But those 4 years were so unbelievable in the transformation of this girl that just got to really come out and come through and find her confidence.
Great. She sure did. Yeah. Still remember interviewing her.
I know.
Great. Thank you both. Another parent wants to know, are kids held to deadlines, or do you feel like the school is too accommodating? Anyone can answer that.
Do you mind if I?
Yeah.
I had this is something we thought about a lot when we were looking at a school for Axel, because he needed, we felt, such specific circumstances in school. He's dyslexic and he needs support, but not so much that he needs a school like Carroll or a special program. And so we had a hard time finding a school that had the support yet a regular a high school college prep program. And so I was worried in the beginning that maybe it was too easy, maybe it was too he needs to be let go too. And so we went back and forth with this, and I really have found that it truly has not been for him. It's been just the right amount with the SAS program. That's the perfect amount of support for what he needs, and then the workload in school in his regular academic classes are exactly what my girls find at Beaver Country Day. And yet he has the support in the SAS classes. So I really have not found that it's soft or easy, or that the teachers are doing the work for him. He's absolutely held accountable for his work and for himself in many different areas, not just school. In the extracurriculars too. He needs to find his way there. That's actually been really, really excellent for him, and growing his independence.
Great, thank you. Would any other parent like to add to that, or?
I think it's differentiated too for each kid. So like, some kids might need more support in the area of like deadlines and expectations initially, but then it changes as your student becomes accustomed to, what the requirements are, or, if they know that like each kid is different. And I think that's one of the great things too about these teachers, is that they understand each student for their strengths and their weaknesses, and can tailor their expectations to that. And it can change from the beginning of the year to like where we are now, for example. Obviously like, the expectations may be a lot different now that they've been there for a while. So
Great, thank you.
I'll just say that I can't really answer that, because thankfully Mia is a very studious and conscientious student. So, I really haven't had to deal with issues of her not doing something on time, or a teacher having to, give her extensions or multiple extensions on any projects. But so that again kind of goes back to it varies for every student. So as far as Mia, thankfully, Chapel Hill has helped her become, stay that studious person and want to get her work done and be proud of it. So although you can read those progress reports and it might say something, she's got that. And she owns that.
Great, thank you. Next question, a parent was wondering if someone could speak to an increase in confidence in their academic abilities, maybe if they weren't so confident prior, and kind of what their journey was like, and how that happened. If someone wants to talk about that.
So my daughter, Sophia, was not confident at all in her academic abilities, which is one of the reasons we wanted to move her to Chapel Hill Chauncey Hall. And she pretty much went through middle school and elementary school kind of in a blur, and not really knowing what's going on, and just skating by and getting very used to that. And in her eyes, she labeled herself as school's not my thing in terms of academics. And it wasn't even about the grades. It was just about learning. She was just always very confused. She didn't know what she was studying in history. She didn't know what she was learning in math. And she just kind of became used to that, and became very good at being used to it, and then labeling herself as a not smart person, but we knew she was very smart. And so she came to Chapel Hill Chauncey Hall, and she has been amazed at herself and what she's accomplished there. She has great grades, but the reason she has great grades is because she's with teachers who believe in her, and teachers who hold her accountable, and teachers who truly like her. And I mean, I want to go as far as saying love her. And so she wants to do well for them. So not only is she incredibly motivated, but success breeds success. So she gets good grades, and then she wants to keep getting good grades. She sees what it feels like to get good grades, and her confidence just shoots up. And I remember when we first came to Chapel Hill Chauncey Hall and met with the teachers in the fall, the teachers told my husband and I, she's going to do great here. She's going to get great grades. And my husband and I just looked at each other like, really? We believed in her, but we just thought, she's so used to not getting good grades. And sure enough, they were right. She's doing very well, and she's very proud of herself, and she knows she can do well. And a
And
lot of it is all accountable to I have to say, to these teachers who believe in her, and she sees that. She's like, wow, they believe in me, so I need to do well for them.
And as a junior now, is she taking any classes that she, like, now she's been there for 3 years, and just the challenge piece and just more invested in her academics? When you said before she didn't feel like the academic
Yeah.
that wasn't important to her, but do you see like that she's more invested in the classes, or really stepped it up and are
Yeah.
taking challenges?
Yes, she did step it up, and she is more invested. For example, her math class is a class that she thought she was going to be horrible in. She had anxiety over the summer. She just thought, there's no way I'm going to be able to handle this math. She thinks math has always been hard for her. She's now seeing that she is very good at math. And she has just keeps getting her math tests back, and she's, again, just shocked at the grades she's getting, because she's doing very well in them. So it sounds like I'm bragging, but trust me, if you knew me, you would know that I do not brag. But it's just a testament. What I'm doing is bragging about the school. It's a testament to what the school has been able to do for her, who never had any confidence in her academics. It's changed her completely.
Thank you. Another question. Parent is wondering about just the skills and academic support, both in general, and then has it been able to work out that they have been able to take a world language and the performing and visual arts classes, that you were able to kind of fulfill those needs and credits? So there's kind of that balance in the beginning that, you know, you have to kind of choose. But this parent was just wondering just kind of how SAS has really benefited your child, and then as they transition out, have they been able to really dabble in the world language or visual arts classes?
Do you mind if I?
Sure.
So when we started looking at the SAS program, and we knew that Axel would need that, we were torn, because he's an artistic kid, and he also speaks languages, surprisingly, with his dyslexic profile. He speaks German and French, and really well too. And so we were nervous about giving that up for, and we were confused also, because never having done this program before, we didn't know exactly what we were walking into, but we did it anyway. And to realize that it wasn't exactly giving it up. So he does, as a freshman, he does take French, and he does have SAS. He doesn't have an art class, but the afternoon activities, many of them are art classes. And so that's been pleasantly surprising for us, that he actually does have art. It's through the activities he's chosen. And sometimes it's he doesn't have a sport because of that, because he's doing an art class, but then the next time it changes and he's doing the sport. And so it's worked out just fine right now. I'm not sure how it will be as he gets older and wants to take more art, but the one good thing that we've learned about the SAS program is that they might not always have to take it. They might get the skills that they need in the first couple of years, and then not need it as much, which is kind of what we're hopeful for Axel. And then of course there would be openings in the schedule that you could take the language and the
Right. Yep.
the art. Yeah.
Does
But
someone else?
also it's been so worth it for us too.
Yeah.
The SAS program has been, that's exactly what he needed. So it's been very good.
Good. Thank you.
So Mia did SAS in 9th grade and totally benefited from SAS. And then when she transitioned to 10th grade, we were so worried about not having SAS, because we wanted to do a language, and she's also taking an art now, and she did drop the SAS, and I have to say that it's been fine. Even if you have to understand that even though that SAS might disappear, the teachers don't. They're still going to be there to help your kid with math or English or this paper or this history or this project. So in some ways, you're not really dropping SAS in my mind. You have to find a different time to meet with a teacher to help you. So she's been able to do her Spanish this year, and also art. So I don't see any issues with that.
Great. Thank you. I'm not sure if this applies to anyone, but I'll put it out there, and if it doesn't, then I'll make sure it's covered when we have the athletics webinar next week. Does anyone have children who kept with an outside sport? And if a student is interested in a sport at school and can manage to do both? So just quickly, I just want to summarize the requirement, and then I can see if this applies to any of the parents on the panel. So each trimester, students have to do something after school. So it could either be something in our athletics or our performing arts, or we have other options like newspaper club or makerspace. So there are other options. In the past, currently we've had students who might do a sport that we don't currently offer at CHCH. So for example, we had a girl do ice hockey for one trimester. Swimming is another that's been popular. So students can speak to our assistant head of school and ask to petition that and do an independent study for that one trimester, where they don't have to participate that trimester at CHCH and they can do the outside sport. Is anyone on the panel that has applied to it all, and how did that work out? I'm not sure if this applies to anyone. No. Oh,
We don't have the sports piece, but we do have a music piece. So we don't. So our daughter does the theater program all 3 trimesters. But she also is in an a cappella group that meets, and she's in voice lessons, and she performs pretty regularly with this group outside of school. And it's different from sports, I recognize, in terms of the time commitment probably, but it actually has been a decent time commitment that she's been able to manage with school, just in case that's helpful.
Okay, great. And I just wanted to quickly go back. We did talk a little bit about the benefits of the after school. Jenny, I think you said this about Axel, that, a lot of parents ask about, they're in school for, from 8 till 3, and then they have the required after school commitment, and that does make for a longer day. I think, especially for kids maybe coming from public school that, they didn't really do something after school and it makes the day longer. How do they manage and juggle all they have to do? But Jenny, I know you said before that was actually a benefit that Axel has to do something, but I just wanted to kind of put that out there to the parents too, that can you speak to that? And was that kind of a question on your mind before going to CHCH, is how would you manage the longer day?
For us, it was perfect because it let him get some more things that he was very interested in. It wasn't a fight for him to stay there longer. He really wanted to be at the different activities because they were fantastic, the offerings. So it wasn't at all, and it also was such a great way to fit in the arts with the academic support, and just because we are all familiar with the independent school model, that was normal to us. That's what most independent schools operate like in the high school level.
Does someone else want to speak to maybe the length of the day and how that's maybe doing an after school activity has benefited your child? Yep, Francesca.
Sophia was always the type of kid who liked to come home right after school. So I was a little bit worried about that because it does make for a longer school day. With that said, it worked out very well for her because it kept her more social. And in reality, it only keeps them after school for an extra probably about 2 hours. So she would come home from school every day, probably between 4 and 6, depending on the day of the week, depending on what the activity was. And so the nice thing was that she would come home and then have the rest of the night to do her homework. Whereas in public school, a lot of the kids come home after school and then the activities are in the evening. So that was kind of very nice. And the fact that a lot of them are mandatory, the after school activities, is nice because it kind of gets them more involved in the school and makes them feel like they belong and they're a part of the school, which is another issue we had with public school, is that it was a little bit too overwhelming for her to get involved in after school activities because it was very intimidating. So the fact that CHCH requires it made it very nice, and it just made her feel like she was a part of the school. I don't know how else to say it. Just part of the community, and made her like school that much more.
Do you mind if I just add one more thing?
Yeah.
The other part about the afternoon activities were Axel was interested in wrestling, which is something none of us knew anything about, never showed any interest. And he was welcome. It wasn't like there were so many kids that there was this big tryout, or there was spots for him to join and learn, and even if he'd never done it before. And I think that most of the afternoon activities are set up like that for kids to try it out, and without being too much, where there isn't room for everybody. And that was really excellent too, for especially in this wrestling case where he tried it out and it ended up being a powerful experience for him. And it was a great opportunity. So
thank you. And Michelle, do you want to talk about, because we're talking sports a little bit and performing arts, but Aaron also does, has done different things after school. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Sure. So Aaron isn't the most athletic kid, but he's found a place on the cross country team, which he really loves, and the ultimate Frisbee team, which he also really loves. And he also does the makerspace. And we have this wonderful new building that we're all dying to get back into. He's always tinkering, so that has been really wonderful for him. And what I love about the cross country team in particular that we found is that, you know, as one of the other panelists said, it didn't matter if you were the best runner in the world. You know, everyone was able to join the team. And one of our meets, we have a meet in Providence every year. And at one of the first meets that I went to, I was so impressed that when they all finished and got through, they stood on the sidelines, and we were the only school cheering each other on as you know, everyone came through. So the sense of camaraderie and the sense of teamwork and everything else that it fosters has been really, really great. And you know, you can always find something, whether that's rock climbing or basketball or, you know, the theater. You know, if you don't want to be, you know, perform, you can also see things making the sets. So it's great for everyone to be involved.
Great, thank you. One other question was, if someone could speak to, you know, if your child has a particularly strong interest in something at the school and we don't offer that particular course, they heard a little bit about independent studies during the academic session. Amy, I believe Emma did this, an independent study.
Myself.
Yeah.
So Emma did an independent study her senior year at Fuse in Lexington. So she went 1 day a week. She wrote up what her plan would be. She actually worked with a teacher to put together what her plan would be. And she went into Fuse 1 day a week, and she worked in the preschool classroom. They're basically ages 3 to 8. And, you know, all definitely different special needs. And so she went in, she worked with the kids. And then she did I'm forgetting a little bit. She did a reflection every time she went, and then she did do one case study, which was approved by both the parent in the program, the teachers in the program, and that was her final project. But she worked with an advisor, 2 advisors really, and she met with them once a week. They kind of set up what her new goals would be going in. It was a wonderful experience for her, and it gave her really like an internship before she even graduated from high school, which was great.
Great, thank you.
Can I just add to that? Sophia is for her language, she wanted to do Italian, which Chapel Hill Chauncey Hall does not offer. And so she wanted to see if she could do an independent study. And so she proposed it to the school, and the school approved it. And she is now doing 2 years of Italian through a professor at Wellesley College. And it's all online, pretty much what we've been doing since coronavirus. But she's been doing it since the fall, and she's getting full credit for it. So that's been a great option for her.
Thank you. Next question is just to talk a little bit about new student orientation. When is it scheduled? What is it involved? I can kind of answer the nuts and bolts of that question, and then kind of maybe have a parent speak to, you know, their child's experience and how the orientation helped. So we have a really fabulous PGA, a Parent Guardian Association. And so every summer they put together some type of event, just something casual like a cookout. We have some current families join it with us, some current parents and students. And then we invite all of our new families to join us. It's not mandatory, but it's just a way, towards the end of the summer to start getting back into school mode and come to campus and just, casually get to know one another. We also have some faculty who join us as well. And then after Labor Day, we typically do an orientation day, a registration day with all the fun paperwork where you get your schedule and all of that fun stuff. And then every grade level actually does an orientation every year. So the ninth graders all together will do something on campus, and then the sophomores, juniors, and seniors will do an activity off campus. So each year the seniors will typically do some college visits in the Boston area. A class might do, a hike on Mount Monadnock. And it's just a way before classes start for the students and the faculty on that particular team to really get to know one another and start to create those bonds as well. So that's kind of the logistics of how that happens. But does anyone want to kind of speak to how the orientation might have really helped with the transition and made a difference? Anyone can go.
Well, I can speak to just this one part of orientation, which has been so powerful for us. Alexa, on her first day of her freshman orientation on campus, met her friend, met a girl that became a good friend and a teacher that became a very close teacher. They kind of were doing a tour through campus, and the teacher was new this year, and of course Alexa and the friend were new, and they kind of got lost along the way together. And long story short, to this day, it is still Alexa's best friend in the whole wide world, and that teacher is still someone that she keeps in touch with to this day. So that's just an example of how meaningful an interaction and orientation can last 5, 6, 8 years later or whatever. So yeah.
Thank you for sharing. All right. Anyone else want to speak to the orientation?
I'm happy to add the same, very similar experience with Sophia. For her, it was at the summer barbecue. They put together a barbecue, and I think it's in August. And Sophia went, and again, she was super nervous. She did not want to go to the school, and she walked away with like 2 or 3 friends. They all started texting, and they're still these 2 or 3 girls are her best friends today. So it was extremely helpful. It eased all the nerves for the actual real first day of school.
I think it's nice for every year to do it because we keep the ninth grade class smaller by design to help them transition from middle school to high school. But then every year we are adding about 10 to 15 new sophomores, a handful of new juniors. And so for those students, I think it's really important for them to also have the opportunity to have these orientations as well, to make those connections and friendships before they're stepping into the classroom. So that's great. This is actually a question.
Lisa, just one more thing I'll just add really quickly. It doesn't necessarily happen orientation day, but with the sports teams, they do for the first week have a Saturday and Sunday practice. They have the morning and then an afternoon session, and it just gets the team together. And I think that's a big way that Mia got to found her buddies and found friends on the sports teams. So that's another thing that happens.
Great, thank you. This question was actually from a student. How did you know that CHCH was the right school? I know that's kind of a no.
Do you mind if I say?
Yeah.
We loved it when we went and saw it. We loved the school, and Axel had a really good feeling about it. But honestly, like it was all the little details, like the admissions box and all the things that made him feel so welcome, like that he really was wanted and a part of the school. It was so admissions maybe was the first step in that. Not of course the going for the tour and seeing it, but he got such a good feeling from that, and it was true. That was really it spoke so well to what the actual experience was for us.
Great, thank you. Takes a long time to make those boxes. I'm glad he liked.
I'll have to say that I'll be 100% honest. I was not sure that Chapel Hill was the right school for Mia, and here I am. She was more in tune with what she wanted and what she felt she needed, and she felt like Chapel Hill was the right school for her. I just was nervous from the get-go. She had been at the Carroll School for so long, and just that whole transitioning, not only to another school, but transitioning to high school. It's like a big deal, right? Mm-hmm. So that for me was, I think, it just was a big nut to chew. It was just a lot. And I really took her lead, and I pretended with her that this is it, we're doing this. But there was a piece of me that wasn't sure. But mm-hmm. after the first couple days, couple weeks, man, she had me convinced. And I am so mad at myself and kick myself every day because I lost sleep over the decision to go to Chapel Hill, Chauncey Hall, and what a waste of time and energy that turned out to be.
Mm-hmm. Great. Thanks for sharing, Susan. All right. Anyone else? Okay. What would you say you like most about the school?
I might take that one.
Yeah.
I really love the community atmosphere at CHCH. I think that, there's always someone who has a pulse on your child. The relationships that they build with the teachers and the other students are meaningful. And, we're all well informed on what's going on. And that's something when you're coming from a big public high school that you don't necessarily get. So that's one of the things that I really love about CHCH.
Mm-hmm. Great.
Building on the community thing, like that's would be exactly what I would say too, is like, and it kind of goes to the previous question, just walking on campus and feeling part of. And it could be with your classmates in your grade. It could be with, for our daughter, she's friends with 10th, 11th, and 12th graders. And it's like the whole community comes together as one. And even though they have their breakouts into classes or whatever, it's one big family. I mean, it really is. It's like a family. And I remember Lance saying something about that at one of the open house things, thinking to myself, yeah, that's pie in the sky. Like, no way. And it's really real. Like, so many different kids, so many, interests, and yet they're all so supportive of each other. And I think like we were in the parent meeting just a couple of hours ago, talking about the distance learning thing. And my comment there was, it's so awesome to hear all of this giggling and chatter coming from our living room, because they're so excited to see each other again and interact with each other again. And it's just like heartwarming. It's such a different experience from where we came from. To have that now, it's like that, like that's why that it makes all the difference. I mean, it talks, talking about self-esteem and happiness and just fitting in. It's incredible.
Great, thank you.
I also think that it's kind of cool that the teachers engage with the students. I've often picked Mia up from school and seen her at the picnic table with two teachers, and she's gotten in the car, and I've said to her, who is that? Oh, it's Mr. So-and-so, or it's Mrs. whatever. And I'm like, oh, like, what were you guys talking about? Like, it's just, I think that that's special that they're there and they have lunch with them, they have dinner with them, and they're part of the family there. And that's unique.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah, and just to piggyback on the family thing, just most recently this past winter, Sophia had a bit of a social situation with a couple of her friends, and she was very, very upset about it. And the teachers are what got her through it. I was blown away. I mean, the teachers were emailing me, were on top of it, were telling me what was going on. One of the teachers even called me one night. We spent 45 minutes on the phone talking about it. And they guided Sophia through the whole thing. took her in during lunchtime, said, you know, just tell your friends that you have a meeting at lunch. And so Sophia would go and have lunch with her teacher, and her teacher would give her tips on how to kind of navigate this whole social situation. So I was blown, you know, getting back, Lisa, to the question of what do you love about Chapel Hill Chauncey Hall, or what's your favorite thing about it? It just goes back to teachers. They care about the kids academically and socially. They're just on top of it.
Great. Thank you for sharing. Good. All right, we're just about up to our hour. Anything else any of our panelists want to add? Any final comments? Or well done, such a great job, and we always appreciate your honesty and such. So just want to give a round of applause to everybody. I just really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to help us and just kind of share your perspectives with these families. And to the families, if there are other questions you think of after we hang up this afternoon, you can always reach out to me. And I'm sure any of these parents on the panel and other parents, they're always happy to be in touch with you. So if you want to speak to someone directly, if we didn't get to your specific question, please don't hesitate, and I can share contact information with you. So again, thank you everyone for joining us. And don't forget, next week we're wrapping up our live webinar series, again with our visual and performing arts, college counseling, as well as athletics. So I believe Matt put the link in the chat box, but you can register for all of those on our website. So thanks again for joining us this afternoon, and hope you all have a wonderful weekend. Bye everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.